Steering Committee on Federal Sustainability under our new and improved executive order that the President signed on October 5th. I'm Nancy Sutley. I'm chair of the White House Council on Environmental Quality. And welcome to everybody who's joined us here in the room and to those of you who are joining us at whitehouse.gov. Earlier this week at a meeting of the Green Cabinet with the President, I had the opportunity to share the progress that we're making on the executive order, implementing the executive order with the President. And his question to me was whether we were being aggressive enough. So I think that's an important thought that I wanted to share with you and challenge all of us to keep that in mind today. We have, in the executive order, been called upon to lead by example and to practice what we preach, and to put the scale and the scope of the federal government and its operations to work in helping to build a clean energy economy and to protect the communities that we all live and work in. Collectively, the U.S. government is the single largest consumer in the U.S. economy. We occupy almost 500,000 buildings, have more than 600,000 fleet vehicles, and purchase more than $500 billion of goods and services every year. And I think we recognize that's the kind of buying power that can help transform markets, turn good entrepreneurial ideas into great American enterprises that create jobs. And our first order of business is setting leadership goals for reducing greenhouse gas pollution from the federal government. The GreenGov challenge, which was very widely shared, has given us thousands of excellent, innovative, and very interesting ideas to start with. And we'll be hearing a little bit later on the initial results today, and we'll get to a full and detailed report in the next couple of weeks. We have lots to talk about today as soon as I get my notes. So we had about 15,000 federal and military personnel who shared their ideas with us and their votes. So before we get to the rest of our agenda, I'd like to introduce my colleague and co-chair in this effort, Sally Erickson from OMB. And OMB has been our partner in every step of the way in developing this executive order and our full partner in its implementation. Sally?
Good afternoon. I'm very pleased to be here and appreciate the very quick response that your agencies used in appointing you as our senior sustainability officers. For those of you who've been at this table before for years, thank you for all the hard work you've done already. We're going to build on that with a new executive order. Your dedication, your service, and your commitment to sustainability management issues are very important to the success of the President's executive order. For those of you who are new to the table, and these are new duties for you, I thank you for joining us, and we want your contributions. We need new thinking, and we really do want their contributions. This is, I think, the third or fourth meeting we've done on this since the beginning of the administration. These forums are very important for sharing ideas and identifying new opportunities. So I just want to thank you as we get started.
Okay. So before we move into the portion of the agenda where we're going to be discussing a little bit the initial results of the GreenGov challenge, I know that there are quite a few of us here today, but if we could start just by quickly going around the room and introducing yourselves, just with your name and your agency. I'm Michelle Moore. I'm the Federal Environmental Executive.
John Carson, Nancy Sutley's Chief of Staff here at CEQ.
Pat Kennedy, Department of State. Dan Tangolini, Department of Treasury. John Charles, Department of Commerce. Richard Kidd, Department of Energy.
Cindy Valina, OMB.
Robin Hurd, Department of Agriculture.
Kenneth Etheridge, SBA.
Lee Loftus, Department of Justice.
Steve Leeds, GSA.
Karen Jackson, Department of Housing and Urban Development.
Tina McGuire, Office of Personnel Management.
Sam Pocrano, U.S. Postal Service.
Jim Wright, NASA.
Joanne Ryan, Department of Education.
Charlotte Hayes, Department of Labor.
Rhea Sue, Department of Interior.
Howard Kelsey, HHS.
Katie Thompson, Department of Transportation.
Renee Page, Environmental Protection Agency.
Chris Kemiski, Department of Homeland Security.
Dorothy Robine, Department of Defense.
Cass Sunstein, Office of Information and Regulatory Affairs at OMB.
George Higginbotham, USAID.
John Major, Federal Housing Finance Agency.
Mark Sprouse, National Archives.
CJ Cordova, Veterans Affairs.
Dan Amon, EPA. Bill Reddington, Social Security Administration.
Willie Taylor, Department of the Interior.
Bill Van Houten, DOD.
Shannon Kniff, DOD.
David Lee, Federal Housing Finance Agency.
Chris DePaula, U.S. Institute of Peace. Julius Svoboda, U.S. Agency for International Development. U.S. Trade and Development Agency.
Jim Sullivan, Department of Veterans Affairs.
David Hauk, Smithsonian Institution.
Betsy Beggs, Social Security Administration.
Victoria Bateman, Department of Education.
Tom Herlihy, Federal Energy Regulatory Commission.
Waikita Stegman, SOSA Court Services Defender Supervision Agency.
Bob Bird, Department of Housing and Urban Development.
Jim Williams, Court Services and Offender Supervision Agency.
Emil Desiree, U.S. Postal Service.
Linda Wenneberg, NASA.
Al Stewart, Department of Labor.
Sarah Duffy, Office of Personnel Management.
Ron Peacock, Office of Personnel Management.
Nathan Sturkin, White House New Media.
Christine Schwartz, Department of Justice.
Kevin Kamsher, General Services Administration.
Diane Stewart, Department of Health and Human Services.
Uday Varadarajan, OMB.
Jeff Goodman, Department of Agriculture.
Peter Konsky, Department of Energy.
Mark Dowd, Federal Maritime Commission.
Dave Diosdado, Nuclear Waste Technical Review Board.
Doug Valcor, Farm Credit Administration.
Stephen Wallace, Treasury.
William Powers, National Labor Relations Board.
Christine Gluns, White House Council on Environmental Quality.
Robert Shinta, Department of Commerce.
Ann DeRay, Tennessee Valley Authority.
Ed Blackadar, Selective Service System.
Julia Coster, National Capital Planning Commission.
Lois Schiffer, National Capital Planning Commission.
Stephen Hatch, Commodity Futures Trading Commission.
State Department.
Steve Rodriguez, State Department.
So thank you, everybody. We've got a really wonderful group representing, I think, the full complement of federal agencies governed by the executive order, and a few volunteers with us here today. I appreciate you being here. Now, we're going to spend the first portion of our agenda talking a little bit about the early feedback on the GreenGov Challenge. And as you all may recall, in mid-October, we launched on whitehouse.gov the GreenGov Challenge, and this was a way to engage anybody with any federal or military personnel, anybody with a federal or military email address, to come online and share their ideas and vote on what they thought the best ideas were for really fulfilling the intentions of the executive order and helping to green the government. So in front of you all, you have that first cut in terms of results. And I'll hit a couple of the highlights just to be able to share with those of us who are logged in online today and don't have this piece of paper in front of us, a couple of the initial ideas that we pulled out of this. And just to share with you as well, within the next 2 weeks, the team is going to be creating a full report that goes into the ideas in detail. And then while the ideas that were shared themselves are anonymous, we're going to be sending out to all of you a complete compendium of the ideas that were submitted on the GreenGov Challenge, cross-tab by agency, so you all can see what came in from the folks who were on your teams in your community. And HHS, DOD, and Department of Commerce, you all are going to have a lot to look through. One of the things that we looked at was where the largest number of ideas came from, and this was an absolute number. We didn't try to normalize it by how many folks were actually in the agencies. And HHS, Health and Human Services, came in with 20% of all of the ideas that were shared, with Department of Defense next at about 600 ideas and Department of Commerce shortly there behind. We also have really all of you to thank for help promoting it in your agencies as well, logging on, doing video blogs, and blogs on whitehouse.gov as well to promote it. I think it's important that we take a look at the second chart here, which talks a little bit about the distribution by region. Another one of the thoughts that was behind the spirit of the GreenGov Challenge is really reaching out beyond the Beltway and engaging the community of federal professionals that aren't in Washington, D.C. To share their thoughts and make sure that we were really getting out into the field. You can see from the results here that while a little over 900 people who responded out of the 15,000 some odd were from Washington, we also had a really good geographic distribution with colleagues overseas logging in. But Northeast region, Southeast, and West were actually the strongest participants, with folks from the Midwest and the Southwest joining in as well. So I think that we can say that we really hit the mark of being able to engage the full geographic breadth of the federal community. Now, if you flip over onto the back side of the page, taking some of the suggestions that came in and living by our own rules in the executive order as well, we are double-sided printing everything today. There were some definite themes that emerged, not only in terms of the top ideas that shone through in the several categories in the GreenGov Challenge, but also once you all have the opportunity to really look through all 5,000 and some odd that came in, there were very clear themes that really ran through conserving energy, reducing greenhouse gases, and many of the other sections. I'll touch on those and then maybe just call out some of the hidden gems that we pulled out. So these are ideas that were stood out as unique or innovative, that didn't necessarily get the largest number of votes, but that we thought were worth mentioning for purposes of this discussion. Teleworking definitely emerged as a theme, certainly as it relates to conserving energy and also reducing greenhouse gas pollution. Lots of very innovative ideas came in conserving water as well, particularly in how we address our landscaping, both xeriscaping and using gray water or rainwater to water landscapes instead of water that you'd be able to drink, and then also bathroom retrofits, using low-flow toilets, low-flow fixtures, and being very conscientious about how we're using water overall. In terms of eliminating waste, great themes there as well. Certainly looking at how we use digital signatures, how we dispose of our electronic equipment, making sure robust recycling services are available at all federal facilities. And I think this is interesting as well. It emerged not only in eliminating waste, but also in some of the other categories. There are a lot of ideas related to cafeterias, both in terms of making sure that we were using recycled content or compostable materials for cafeteria food service items like cups and forks. Apparently it really sticks in people's craw if they have values that support sustainability, but they have to walk out of their cafeteria with materials that aren't going to be recyclable. Also looking at composting as a solution. Sustainable buildings, sustainable products and purchasing, just a couple of themes that I would mention there, especially as it relates to sustainable buildings, because this popped up in energy and GHG reductions too. There was a real interest on the part of the community for integrating renewables more so into our energy use portfolio. Lots of suggestions for using our ample rooftops for solar panels and other ideas. And the last thing that I would mention in sustainable products and purchasing, there were many ideas that were shared here, both in terms of some of the top scoring ideas, but also some of the other little hidden gems that popped up throughout the reporting for looking at our supply chain and giving preference not only for products that met green criteria that we had set forth, but also for thinking about how green the companies are that we're working with and rewarding the top performers from a corporate perspective. So to kick off the discussion that we're going to be sharing today, and just like when you introduced yourself, someone will be passing you a mic to share your comments. And Nancy, I would just ask if there were a couple of thoughts that you would like to share to get us going.
Well, thanks, Michelle. And first of all, just thanks to all of you, to the agencies, and to everybody who submitted ideas. And I think when we started this, we really didn't have an idea of how much response we would get, both in terms of some really great ideas as well as people voting, just a really an amazing amount of response and a lot of really creative thinking, and as Michelle said, from all over the country and literally all over the world. So that's we're very pleased with that. I think there's a lot for us to take in terms of ideas, but also I think shows the enthusiasm and interest among federal employees in participating in making their workplaces more sustainable, making the federal government greener. So that's, I think, very gratifying and a good place to sort of start this round of thinking about how we make the federal government more sustainable. And I still can't believe this wasn't a top vote getter. My favorite suggestion was about using goats to clear brush away. I said Department of Transportation enjoys that one.
We've done that.
That's good. At Fort Ord, right. They don't have to worry about stepping on live ammunition so much. But we did in the city of LA use it one of our vacant lots downtown that the city owned, and it turned into a tourist attraction because all these people would walk down the street or drive by in downtown Los Angeles and see a herd of goats munching away. So I was a little disappointed the goats weren't a top vote getter, but there were lots of really creative ideas like that. And again, I think just to reinforce, I think for all of us, how eager are all of our colleagues in the federal government are to be a part of this. So I think we need to keep, as the leadership team here, we need to keep that in mind, that there's a lot of enthusiasm out in the federal workforce to do this.
Great. Who else would like to share some thoughts on the GreenGov Challenge? I'm just going to call on people if y'all don't raise your hand. Oh, Dan, thank you.
Thanks a lot. What was very exciting about the ideas that were put before us is that some of them are actionable immediately. And the great thing is by reaching out to our employees, the people who work every day, see these things every day, and then they've been dying to have some opportunity to raise this concern straight up to the top, and it doesn't get much higher than where you're going here, and say, can we get some attention to this? Can we get some focus to this? The great thing is we have a list of things that we can do. Some of them are immediate, some of them intermediate, and some long-term, but it's a great set of ideas that we can begin to act on right away. So it's exciting to see it.
Great. Thank you, Dan. Other thoughts? Renee?
Just two quick comments, and I do agree with you because I think it's nice because a lot of the things that we do are facilities related, and if you look at this list, these are things that actually hit home with employees and things that the employees can participate in. And the other thing for this hidden gem, I love this one, the transportation subsidy. We're actually beginning that at EPA. I don't know about the other federal agencies, but we're going to begin to give $20 to biking communities. And I love that. And at first, we said, can we really figure this out? Who actually bikes? And, versus, the transit subsidy and our other subsidy programs. But I think that's a great one. It's something that we're going to start doing. And the other thing I'd suggest is we have a lot of partnership programs at EPA. So if folks are interested, and a lot of them relate back to some of these initiatives, I just welcome folks to visit EPA's website.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. Other thoughts to share? John?
Well, Michelle, I would just strongly encourage the agencies, strongly encourage everyone to find a way to continue this. I think you all recognize this effort is going to be the agency's most successful at this sustainability effort are those that fully engage their employees. As we began this process of talking to the agencies about a new executive order, it was very clear the energy that was behind this idea, and this project, the GreenGov Challenge, confirms that. And I'd strongly suggest that you check with your own new media departments, your own internal communications departments, and find a way to use this new set of tools to continue this outreach, to continue the dialogue, and most importantly, I think, find ways to show people that the ideas they've put forward are being implemented.
Great. Patrick?
I think two things that are most important.
among many at State, are first of all trying to devolve some of the responsibility on field offices, which at State is both our domestic field offices and our embassies and consulates abroad. I mean, we have already set up what we're calling the League of Green Embassies, which is a group of over 35 posts around the world who get together using our intranet website to trade ideas, and that also reverbs through our central system in Washington to keep going. So, but we've also have our regional offices in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, that do a huge amount of volume for our consular affairs. But, so they're not only the people in Washington, but I think your own survey shows that there are people not at headquarters who are interested, and I think we have to give them the latitude and the incentive to produce. The second is a focus on buildings. I mean, the State Department has already received LEED certification for several of our new embassy construction projects overseas, and we continue to push those, as well as using that as the talisman on a new building that we're leasing in Washington and also in our rehab projects.
Thank you. Now, I would just invite folks who are sitting not just around the table, but around the ring of the room as well. The only reason between sort of tables and ring of the room is just space constraints here. So if there are any of you who would like to share a few comments around GreenGov, please. Yeah, great, thank you. Kevin. Oh, no. Sam.
Thank you. I would concur what everyone says about engaging our employees, the power that they have and the willingness to get involved. I'll just give you a couple quick anecdotal experiences that we've had. We've rolled out some green teams. So we started in our headquarters building. In fact, we recognized that team this morning for the work they did this past year. They focused on 5 goals. It was energy reduction, water conservation, fuel reduction in the fleet that's at the headquarters building, as well as our waste. We're looking to go to a zero waste facility. And lastly, consumables. That team together saved a little over $2 million in our facility last year in one single facility. We rolled it out to our 8 area offices, the same concept, the same 5 goals, and those 8 area offices saved another additional $5 million in those 5 categories. And I guess the testament to our success is one of our area vice presidents who covers the southeast area, has about 60,000 employees, has taken it upon himself to now roll those green teams out to all the districts within his respective area because he's seen the results. So I think there's a tremendous amount of power, and this survey indicates that our employees not only want us to do these things, they expect us to do these things.
That's a good point. Thank you. Kevin.
I think what's really interesting about this is that so many of the suggestions contain a willingness to change behavior on the personal level. And I think that that kind of engagement has a tremendous power, especially we in the buildings business in particular tend to think, oh, we can't do that because nobody will like it. And what is really clear from this is that not only people like it, they want it, and they're willing to change behavior to do it. As we go forward in greenhouse gas measurement, and especially in Scope 3, the willingness to change behavior and to know what we're doing deliberately is going to be the thing that will enable us to achieve our goals.
Okay, thank you. So before we wrap up this component of our agenda, I would like to ask in particular if there's anyone from Commerce, Health and Human Services, or DOD who'd like to share a few thoughts since you all had such incredible participation from your agencies.
Not to put you on the spot.
Not to put you on the spot or anything. Dorothy?
Well, let's see. We are taking this seriously. I mean, we have a lot of people, so anytime you ask us to do something, you get a lot of response. And I'm an economist, and I'm used to sort of doing things through market mechanisms. But I have discovered that when it comes to the Defense Department, the executive order works very, very well. So we welcome that kind of thing. But there are, in a bottom-up sort of way, when I visit installations around the country, I see individual base commanders taking this seriously and having their own suggestion boxes, and it really is permeating the discussion in a marvelous way. This morning I was at a meeting with some folks in another agency, and maybe I'll preserve their anonymity, but we were talking about how to improve. It had to do with real property and the efficiency and how we deal with real property, and we all said, you know, we have to link this up to the executive order and the whole green initiative, because there is such support and power behind that we want to definitely hitch our wagon to that star. So I think this this momentum will permeate other issues as well.
Great, thank you. Any further concluding thoughts, John?
Oh, we've talked a lot. Is this on?
Yes.
Okay. About the bottom up, and that's really critical. But also, I think, at least at Commerce, we're hitting it from both the top and the bottom. Secretary Locke has a priority on sustainability, and we stress this at practically every executive management team meeting, in our senior staff meetings. And then we design the program so that people have the opportunity to bring the ideas up. I think that the fact that you're going to share all of these ideas with everyone here is really great. It's important to get all the ideas out. We'll share them with all of our staff, and we may have some internal voting also. So this has been a great opportunity. We didn't know what results we would get out of it, but obviously participation was great.
Great, thank you. Any last thoughts? Oh, okay, Ned.
The number one.
There we go.
At Health and Human Services, it really didn't surprise me that we ended up with 20%. We've got a fairly enthusiastic group and 1,000 responses. I'm surprised there weren't more. About a year ago, we began setting up with all of our operating divisions working groups on about 7 or 8 different parts of the Going Green initiative, and it's good. It is coming up from the bottom. It's nice to have something from the top to sort of be a forcing function, but the success will come from the bottom up. And as I say, it doesn't surprise me. We'd be more than happy to put a challenge out to anybody else if you'd like to. If you want to try to beat 20%.
Thank you. Well, thank you everybody for sharing your thoughts. As I've mentioned previously, within 2 weeks, we're going to have a full report out to everybody, a report that both rolls up and identifies some additional themes that emerge from the responses. And we're also, as I shared, going to have the full results out to you as well. And for those of you who are joining us on whitehouse.gov, one of the next steps with these ideas, because we do, and I think you've heard around the table today, our commitment to keeping the conversation going. Now, ultimately, all of the agencies represented here today are committed to developing and to turning in for OMB's approval a sustainability plan by June of next year. So I'm sure that you'll see a lot of these ideas reflected there as well, and some maybe even sooner. As Dan shared, many of them are actionable immediately. So thank you again so much for joining us online today, and we look forward to having more information for you as we carry forward and implement the ideas that federal colleagues and military colleagues throughout the community have shared with us through the GreenGov Challenge. Thank you.